Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News, where once again we have a theme for today's episode, which not only encompasses the three stories, but also the viewer question. What's the theme? It's fan favorite actors and properties which are moving forward, but in unexpected ways. So the question becomes, will that indeed delight fans, or will fans be like, what the heck are you doing? This is not what I love. So we'll see what the case is with each story. And I'm very curious, of course, to hear your thoughts on that, so be sure to write them down below. But before we dive into today's episode, I just want to remind you that you have only a few days left to get in those one-sentence reviews for a chance to win one of 3 copies of the new Gravity Silent Space Special Edition Blu-ray. That's again courtesy of our friends at Dolby Atmos. And just to quickly reiterate the contest, what you do is you tweet me at Grace Randolph, and then you include the hashtag Dolby Atmos, and then you give your one-sentence review as to why you would like to watch the Silent Space version of the film Gravity. That's included on this new Blu-ray, as well as the original film, as you saw it in theaters. But Silent Space, as we discussed on Monday, is a version of the film that has no music in it, and it's been remixed with Alfonso Cuarón, the director, and Dolby Atmos to try and create like a hyper-realistic version of the film and how it would sound to actually be in space, having the things happen to you that happened to Sandra Bullock. So again, you have until the end of the day this Friday, April 3rd, to get in your tweets, so I look forward to reading them. I already have a whole bunch of great contenders, but you have a chance to get yours in there as well. Alright, so let's begin. Now, our first fan favorite up is Stephen Amell, or Stephen Amell. You would think that name would be easy to pronounce, but no, it's got a booby trap in there. But of course, he's the star of Arrow on the CW. But I, of course, was introduced to him on Showtime's Hung, which, yes, I have to admit, I watched a few episodes of that, and I remember talking about when he was cast as Arrow, being like, are you aware that he's had intense nudity on Showtime? But, you know, it all worked out for him, and he's actually quite successful on Arrow. You know, he's not hugely successful, but Arrow is a cult favorite show. It's a fan favorite show. I think perhaps the most successful show that DC has on the air right now. Now, Gotham has, I think, bigger viewership numbers, and probably a bigger budget as well, being on Fox, but still, Arrow, I think, is more beloved. It has a stronger hardcore fan base. And so people have been pretty upset that he's not going to be in the DC movies. You know, Warner Brothers and DC have been very clear that the DC television shows have nothing to do with the movie universe that they're building. And Stephen, I'm just going to call him Stephen Amell, I'm sorry, so if I'm wrong, I apologize. It'll be grading through this whole section, but I apologize. Please correct me down below if I guessed incorrectly. But he's been saying, you know, he's said quite a few times, I'd love to be in the movies. Why aren't I in the movies? Well, it looks like he's going to be in a movie, but it's a different movie than you perhaps would have expected or wished for. And that's the news that he's signed on for the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie opposite Megan Fox. And he's actually playing Megan Fox's romantic interest. He'll be playing Casey Jones. Now, you might recall from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that Will Arnett's cameraman is also interested in April Jones. And Will Arnett is returning for the second film. So perhaps we'll have a little bit of a love triangle there. Although I'm sure Donnie would say they already have a love triangle going there. You can't have a love square. Nobody tunes in for love squares. We'll see how that plays out. But Casey Jones is a popular character from the animated series. And he is supposed to be also a vigilante who wears a hockey mask, trying to turn their image around after Jason Voorhees. But he's also a bit of a comedic take on vigilantes. So I think it'll be fun to see Stephen Amell kind of make fun of his role perhaps on Arrow in a good-natured way. I think we all like people who can, you know, make fun of themselves and, you know, don't take things too seriously. And I think that Stephen Amell, if he's anything like his cousin Robbie Amell, who was fantastic in The Duff, very funny, then I think he'll nail this role. So I think it's an interesting way for him to move forward in his career. I think he's very, very fortunate to jump up to the silver screen level, and I think you take whatever opportunity you can to do so. And it's kind of an interesting situation because now Arrow fans will find themselves in a bit of a conundrum. They want to see Stephen Amell on the big screen doing vigilante type stuff, even if it is in a slightly comedic manner. But at the same time, they'll have to go see a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, which, you know, they did very well. It did very well at the box office. I thought it was fun, but there are a lot of purists out there, and I would suspect that Arrow, well, he's based on the character Green Arrow, but Arrow fans and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle purists kind of have a serious overlap going there. So I'm curious, Arrow fans, can you make yourself go see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 to support Stephen Amell on the big screen? All right, so that's the first story of the day. Now, the second story goes to a new fan favorite, and that's Lily James. And in fact, I think the jury is still out as to whether or not she is a fan favorite. But Cinderella is doing very well at the box office. It's been largely very well received. And I think that while, of course, Cate Blanchett and Helena Bonham Carter did a lot of the work to get people into the theater, also Richard Madden, I think to some degree from his Game of Thrones work, I'm wondering how many people left the theater a Lily James fan. I think considering the business it's doing, even if it's not everyone, there have to be a decent number of people who've left Cinderella saying, I like Lily James, I wonder what she's going to do next. And what she's going to do next is Pride and Prejudice and zombies. This movie's picking up a lot of steam. I've had a lot of you actually start to tweet me about it, so it's really definitely on people's radar. And now it has a release date, which will be February 19th, 2016. So basically about 1 year after Cinderella comes out. It would have come out on Valentine's Day, but Valentine's Day 2016 is already ridiculously crowded. So this is going to come out the weekend after that, and I think be very competitive. At least you think it might be. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was not competitive, but perhaps that just didn't hit the sweet spot. But I think with, and also the star that they had, I don't even remember his name, Benjamin something. He's married to one of Meryl Streep's kids, but he was really big for a little bit. He came out of you know, Bloody Andrew Jackson on you know, off. I think it was initially off Broadway that went on Broadway, and he had a lot of potential for a while there. But I think Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter helped kill that potential. So we'll see how Pride and Prejudice and Zombies does. But it has a very strong cast. It not only has Lily James in the film, and she's of course hot off of Cinderella, and this will play into this. It will be interesting to see if they can bring in Cinderella fans, because it'll be like Downton Abbey's, or not Downton Abbey, it's an earlier time period, but it'll be Jane Austen-y, I guess you could say. Obviously you can say that because it's based on the Jane Austen novel, but it's a very popular time in British history when it comes to entertainment as well. But you'll have that whole thing, and it'll be very sumptuous and luxurious, which appeals to the Cinderella fan base, but then they're going to throw zombies in there. It'll be interesting to see if there's any crossover. But not only do you have Lily James there, but you also have Bella Heathcote, who was also up for the role of Cinderella, interestingly enough. She's from Dark Shadows, hasn't really got a lot of traction after Dark Shadows. And then also Suki Waterhouse is in the film. Now, who's Suki Waterhouse? Well, Suki Waterhouse is a model and the former paramour of Bradley Cooper. And rumor is that they broke up because he wants to have kids, and she's like, I'm focusing on my acting career. I can't have kids right now. And so I think that's interesting that this is one of the things that's her acting career. And so it better pay off because she you know, gave up Bradley Cooper for it. So I think that's a very interesting little bit of backstory for this film. But it also has your usual Game of Thrones actors. It's got Lena Headey, Charles Dance, your Lannisters there, Papa Lannister and Cersei Lannister, Matt Smith from Doctor Who, and also Jack Houston from Boardwalk Empire. So very, very interesting cast, a lot of big TV heavyweights there. We'll see how they come together to make a heavyweight movie. Lily James, though, is really the only one now here who has successful feature film, you know, a successful feature film under her belt, or under her bonnet in this case. So I'm curious, what do you think of this cast? If you liked Cinderella, do you think you would go and see Pride and Prejudice and Zombies with Lily James in it? Or are you like, that's not what I liked about Lily James and Cinderella, I'll wait for her to do something else? Because usually after a movie like Cinderella, you would think she would do a romantic comedy, but come to think of it, they don't really make romantic comedies anymore, do they? Interesting, they used to be big money makers in Hollywood, and now you rarely see them. Fascinating! We didn't even realize the genre died, and it did. All right, so the third story and the viewer question have to do with properties. We've already have two fan favorite actors, and next our fan favorite property we're going to discuss first is Godzilla. Now, everybody was very excited about the legendary version of Godzilla, which came out last year, and, you know, was not as good as the trailer. The first trailer for Godzilla was amazing, and the movie just never really lived up to what that initial trailer promised. And I think hopefully Legendary is aware of that and will correct that with their second Godzilla movie, which is delayed because Gareth Edwards first has to direct a Star Wars film, Rogue One. So that's coming out 2018. But Toho, of course, who originated the idea of Godzilla, saw how much success and interest there was worldwide in a Godzilla film with, increased production values, etc., that they've decided to make another film themselves. They haven't made one since 2004, but they're back in the game, and they're aggressively back in the game. And that project is continuing to take shape. We have our first image here. You can see Godzilla's cute little footprint here. That's the image for today. You can see in the chapter images that I have up here. But then also they've assembled their creative team. Also, on a side note, Toho has actually assembled their Godzilla conference, or GodzillaCon, which is their group of people that they're going to have. That's what they're calling their brain trust. We're seeing a lot of Hollywood studios have brain trusts for their properties. For instance, we just talked about Transformers setting one up, Paramount setting one up for Transformers. Well, Toho has one now that's supposed to be a think tank to come up with ideas for Godzilla movies. And so they're they're here to, obviously, they originated the Godzilla business and they're not giving it up. And this is coming out in summer 2016. So I hope they're incredibly aggressive in a worldwide manner in getting this film out there. I hope this is something that's available globally and promoted globally. Very, very exciting. But interesting to see if Hollywood is willing to play ball, considering they have so much invested in what Legendary is doing. Fascinating situation. So who do they put behind the camera? Well, they announced they have their co-writers and co-directors, and they're coming from the world of anime. Great choice! Fantastic choice. Anime is a popular phenomenon worldwide. They have people they're using here who are associated with brands that have worldwide recognition, and I think this is a really fantastic and encouraging step in the right direction. They're saying the story is also going to take place in Japan, which is fantastic. But I wonder, this is one question I'd like to ask you, should they shoot this film in English? It's a more universal language than Japanese, and perhaps if they were to do that, it would be a little bit of an easier sell to American and foreign audiences, right? I wish that America and China are the two biggest movie-going audiences in the world. China has some major beef with Japan, so we'll see how that works out. But if they want Americans to go and see this, Americans, they don't even like black and white movies anymore. So to get them to read subtitles is really an uphill battle. But anyway, maybe the anime aspect will help. So who did they sign up? Well, one half of this team is Evangelion director Hideaki Anno, who's also worked with Studio Ghibli many a time. And that's fantastic to bring in Studio Ghibli talent, especially since Studio Ghibli is on a break right now. So it wouldn't be cheating on Studio Ghibli because they're on a break. So they should go and they should bring over more people. I'd be like, oh man, get that credibility here. Hey Miyazaki, you wanna give some influence on this? You want to be an advisor so I can attach your name to this? That would be a really smart move on Toho's part. And then the other person they're bringing in is a VFX coordinator, Shinji Higuchi, who will also work on the visual effects for the film. And he works on Attack on Titan, and also early on in his career, he worked on some Godzilla films in Japan. So I think that's really wonderful to see his career come full circle like that. So I think this film is off to a very good start, and it's something I'd definitely be interested in seeing. But for instance, Attack on Titan, I want to cover that. I haven't gotten to it yet, but they're doing a live-action version. They've already released a trailer. It's a big deal, but it's not a big deal here in the United States. So what's it going to take for these really successful properties abroad in Asia to make it over to our shores in a proper fashion? So those are the three stories of the day. Now the viewer question has to do with another popular brand, and that's Ms. or Captain Marvel. And this is a question from Chitara the Thundercat. And Chitara says, I know this probably sounds like a stupid question. It does not, Chitara. That's why I picked it. You should never feel your questions are stupid. You never know, and if you genuinely have that question, ask away. So Chitara says, but I keep wondering, how come it's Captain Marvel and not Ms. Marvel that Marvel are using for their film with Carol Danvers? Because most of the time when a movie is based off of a comic, they use the original hero the character is associated with. And it seems to be the case with Spider-Man, or vice versa, it seems to be the case with Spider-Man. I would love if someone could answer this, for I love Carol Danvers as both Ms. Marvel and Captain Marvel, but I prefer Ms. Marvel more, and it makes me feel sad that the movie won't be about her. Well, first of all, Chitara, Ms. Marvel is being used right now with a great new character, who has a Muslim background in a new series that's just fantastic. So I would definitely check that out. And I think that the reason that whole character came about, not only because I think Marvel obviously wanted to, have even more diversity in the titles they're offering, but there was a bit of a backlash. People being like, there's nothing wrong with the name Ms. Marvel. I like Ms. Marvel. You shouldn't get rid of it. So they had someone else assume the mantle. But one of the reasons they changed the title and the name for the character, and I actually agree with this, is that it's a little bit, not so great and not on an even playing field to have a female character, a female superhero, be called Ms. Anything, right? It's kind of like Ms. America. And Ms. Marvel kind of creates that feeling like this is the beauty pageant winner of the Marvel Universe. And, she used to not wear pants, etc. And I think they really revamped the character to be a lot more female friendly and a lot more realistic as to what someone who would be in this position would actually be like. You're talking about someone who comes from the Air Force, and I think it's much more likely she would call herself Captain, like Captain America, than saying, you know what, even though I come from the military and I have a lot of self-respect, I'm going to go with the beauty pageant title over the military title. And so I think that's why you saw a change there. And think about it. This is the first female-centric movie to come out of Marvel, and I don't think they want to call it Ms. Marvel either. I think they want to have like a legitimate title for the character. And again, I respect that a lot of people like the history of Ms. Marvel title and don't feel there's anything wrong with it. But there's no Mr. Marvel or Mr. Anything walking around, and I think that you wouldn't see that. It doesn't command respect, or I don't think anybody's like, that's who I want to be. Now clearly some people do want to be Ms. Marvel, I guess, so that is the case. But I think it's just too much of a can of worms to get into and changing and having a character's name be that in contrast to what the male characters' names are. It's just too antiquated and is a little too, it seems condescending. So that's why the title was changed. I think it was a good change. I think they handled it very well at Marvel by introducing this new character to assume the Ms. Marvel mantle. And I think that Captain Marvel, I think that the new version is what you're going to very much see in the movie, the version that I think has spanned a lot of fan interest. You see a lot of cosplay as the new Carol Danvers, the new Captain Marvel, and I think that's what Marvel is going to bring to the big screen. Because I think you don't see as much Ms. Marvel cosplay these days. There's interest in the character, but everybody was really, their imaginations are really captured by this new idea of an Air Force pilot who suddenly, just like Green Lantern basically. And Green Lantern isn't Mr. DC. So I think that's kind of the way that just evolved. So I hope that answers your question. And I'm curious, this is again, people seeing a fan favorite character, Ms. Marvel, finally get to the big screen, but she has to take the name Captain Marvel to do so. So I'm curious how you guys feel about that. So that's today's 3 stories and viewer question. Please write down below what you think of them. And also let me know anything you'd like to see covered tomorrow and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.